If you've ever wondered why there are certain products that are just not available in Canada, well, it largely has to do with language laws. And with a new bill that just passed in Quebec, it might just get a lot worse. Yeah, that's right. U.S. officials are discussing hitting Canada with trade sanctions over Quebec's new language law. The U.S. government officials have debated over whether Bill 96 violates trade agreements that we've made long ago with our largest trading partner, the United States of America. Now, in a lot of cases, really need to understand this. America likes to have Canada as a trading partner, but doesn't necessarily absolutely need Canada as a trading partner, quite like Canada needs America as a trading partner. U.S. government officials have discussed behind closed doors the possibility of imposing trade sanctions on Canada over Quebec's controversial Bill 96 language law. CBC News has learned documents obtained by CBC News under the U.S. Freedom of Information Law also revealed that American government officials are being told that the implementation of Bill 96 could result in fewer American products being shipped to Canada, not just Quebec. No, this will affect all of us as a whole. Now, it's really crazy to me to consider this. Some people, especially like all the way out on the west coast of Canada, like where I live, some people don't even speak French or English as a first language, but adapt and try their best, but yet they're denied products in Canada because the companies it's just too much. It's too much money for a small demographic to change all their labels in order to do this. But this gets into trade restrictions on trademarks, and this is where things get really hairy. But let's go through a little bit of a historical path of where things have been going in Canada due to why have we had shortages, essentially. Now, going back to the pandemic time, Canada should allow the sale of foreign language labeled children's medication in response to shortage, conservatives say. Now, this was at a time when children's Advil was at a massive shortage in Canada, and there was literally product held up at the border because it didn't comply with the language laws in Canada, despite, people really needing these medications. At the time, there was massive shortages.
How bad is the shortage right now?
Yeah, so it is quite bad. So we don't have a ton of stock in the pharmacies, and the timelines for rebalancing the supply and demand remain unclear, but we will receive some supply in late October and early November. And remember, those timelines are fluid and they may change. However, we are hoping that we see some more products coming in relatively shortly.
Well, part of the fluidity of that was the fact that, language laws are the things that are actually holding it back. Manufacturers had ramped up production in America to try to make these products, but didn't have an adequate amount of the packaging to satisfy the French language police in Canada. The Conservatives are calling for the federal government to allow the importation and sale of foreign language labeled versions of the same formulations of over-the-counter pediatric pain medication in response to ongoing nationwide shortages. There weren't worldwide shortages, there were nationwide shortages. In a letter to Health Minister Jean-Yves Duclos, Conservative MPs suggested that the move is a way to alleviate parents' anxieties about being able to find pain and fever medications they need for if their children are sick. As cold and flu season already underway, many parents are unable to locate and purchase this most basic of children's medications, reads the letter. Joint signed by Conservative MPs, a list of them here. Now, it goes in to say, in the letter, the MPs note a similar step was taken in May of 2020 to allow for the importation and sale of Spanish-labeled salbutamol, Aldo Union inhalers due to a shortage of Canadian labeled products. This is crazy. This is crazy that this is even a thing in the first world where we live, but this is the reality. Now, Bill 96 in Quebec, it comes with other things that are of concern to businesses, entrepreneurs, and things like that. And this is from CTV News Montreal, talking about how well, making sure that people speak adequately in French is really just getting ridiculous.
Starting on Thursday, small businesses will have to disclose how many of their employees can't adequately speak French, a move the government admits is aimed at changing that.
Office québécois de la langue française will help them. We are here to help enterprise. We are here to help people.
But the Quebec Community Groups Network is concerned.
What does adequate mean? Who evaluates it? And this is to be done on an annual basis. And this is at a time where there's labor shortage and it's already difficult to find employees.
Absolutely, it's difficult to find employees. This is all the way across Canada, but Quebec is not helping themselves much in this case. Now, however, that's a Quebec problem. The rest of Canada is dealing with this because of the trademark provisions in this bill. U.S. officials have discussed in private whether the restrictions in Bill 96 constitute a technical barrier to trade, a breach of trade-related intellectual property rights, or a violation of Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974. We're going all that way back. And whether those breaches would justify trade sanctions in Canada. The documents, which cover the period of November 2022 to late January 2024, don't reveal whether USTR trade officials have reached a conclusion on the trade sanctions. So we don't even know at this point if they've made a decision and they're just going to move forward with implementation on that. Now, in an email exchange and briefing notes, INTA's Director of Government Relations, Jenny Simmons, wrote that even if U.S. companies want to register their trademarks in Canada before Bill 96 provisions take in effect in 2025, they can't, because the Canadian Intellectual Property Office, which registers trademarks in Canada, has a 4-year backlog of applications. That is absolutely crazy, but it's par for the course in Canada. We have probably one of the most expensive governments in the world, and the services that they provide are absolutely disgustingly terrible. 4-year backlog on trademarks in Canada, that is embarrassing. In a separate document, a coalition of businesses, practitioners, and trade associations warned the U.S. government that Bill 96 could affect their products available in Canada. And that is just, again, par for the course for Canada. It's only getting worse. Just think of all the products that you can think of that aren't available in Canada, and how many of it has to just do with language laws. Literally, you seriously consider this. Small business makes a product, they sell it across the continental US, giant marketplace to sell their product in. But if they want to sell to a tiny demographic that has probably some of the most expensive shipping across a giant piece of land, they have to then also, on top of that, change their labels, have a completely different product run. They're not going to run French labels in America. It's not going to be their normal thing. So they'll run a specific run of the product so that they can have the specific labeling for the Canadian market. For a lot of manufacturers, for a lot of companies, it is just not worth the compliance. It's not worth the effort to sell to, again, our tiny demographic here in Canada. But I'd love to hear what you think of this. Is it a case of Quebec ruins everything? Well, it seems to be that way at the moment. But hey, I'll let you decide. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. And of course, we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.